In this video, we'll be discussing a concept called the value bet, as well as the bluff. Most players have heard of the bluff, but not many know what a value bet is. It's no coincidence that the average poker player bluffs a little too much and turns out to value bet too little. It makes sense to teach these concepts side by side because in some sense, as you'll soon see, they're inverses of each other. Let's start with the value bet. It's any bet you make in poker where you have a greater than 50% chance of winning by the river. We call this greater than 50% equity in the hand. Some situations where you might find yourself value betting are when you have a made hand, meaning if the hand ended at this moment, you would win, and your probability of maintaining that lead all the way through the river is greater than 50%. Or you have a draw. This might sound a little funny, but some draws, especially if you have middle pair as well, so you have additional outs to hit a set, are greater than 50% chance to win the hand. The goal of the value bet is not to push your opponent out of the pot. It's not to win the pot right there. It's actually to get a call. We have greater than a 50% chance to win the pot by the river, so our goal is to increase the pot. You can remember this as you want to increase the pot when you're ahead in a hand. It's a good general rule to live by when you're playing poker. So what's a bluff? In terms of equity, it's the exact opposite of a value bet. It's a bet where you have a less than 50% chance of winning by the river. You have less than 50% equity in the hand. When do you make a bluff? Well, you could actually make it with a made hand as well. And you could make it with a draw. The difference being is that you figure to be behind in the hand. If you have a made hand, you think your opponent has a better made hand. Maybe you have middle pair and your opponent has top pair, or you have a set but your opponent either has a straight or a flush. When you bet that set, maybe you're bluffing to represent that you have the flush and get a straight to fold. Another time you bluff, which is the much more commonly known opportunity, is when you have total air, meaning you have nothing. You're still trying to represent a better hand, but the only way for you to win is for your opponent to fold. And that's the exact goal of a bluff. Whereas in a value bet, we wanted our opponent to call. With a bluff, we definitely want our opponent to fold. Specifically, fold better hands. The reason a bluff works so well is because it mimics your value bet. And your opponent reads this as though you have something like top pair, two pair, or the nuts like a flush or a straight, depending on the situation. And he feels as though you have him beat. So he'll fold middle pair, whatever the case may be. He folds what is the second or third best hand out of all possible hands because he thinks you have one that beats him. So why does the average player not value bet enough? To answer that question, let's just look at a really simple math problem. Let's say that you know you're ahead in the hand and actions check to you. You have an opportunity to bet, and you want to bet as much as your opponent's willing to call. All opponents out there have an amount, a threshold with which they're willing to call, and above that, they're too scared they're going to fold. Let's say in this situation, it's 50 chips. As long as your bet is less than or equal to 50 chips, you'll get a call from your opponent, who has a worst hand. So, you're getting extra value from him. Think about, though, what happens when you underestimate that 50 by 10 versus when you overestimate. When you underestimate by 10, he'll call, but he's calling just 40. So in essence, you lost out on 10 chips in potential profit because he would have called all the way up to 50. When you bet 60, he folds. So the outcome is much worse. You actually lose, your opportunity cost is a whole 50 chips. And because the payoffs by under or overestimating that threshold are asymmetrical, meaning they're lopsided, the risk of underestimating is so much less severe. The average player tends to opt for this route. He tends to underestimate the threshold, meaning his value bets are too small, or he just doesn't value bet often enough. In the long run, this seriously affects your long-term profit. It really hurts your bankroll. So let's talk about the most important value bet to get right, the river value bet. And why is it so important? Well, it just so happens that the pot on the river is larger than it's ever been in the hand, and a pot-sized bet is not that out of the ordinary. So you have potential, if value betting correctly on the river, to win a lot of extra money. Most players on the river, though, with their value bets, have what we call a polarized range. Those dotted lines represent all these medium strength hands, and at the top we have the nuts, like a flush or a full house, whatever the case may be, and at the bottom we have a bluff. And most players will only value bet the river when they either have the nuts or a bluff. With the nuts, they're thinking, I don't care if I get check raised when I'm in position. I don't care if my opponent goes all in. I have the nuts. I'm happy to call whatever. And they're thinking similarly with the bluff. Even though their hand's completely worthless, they feel comfortable. Their decision process is easy. If they get check raised, they fold. If anything happens, they get any resistance, they just fold. They're too scared to play hands like two pair or top pair, or even a hand like ace high. In some cases, it's appropriate to value bet ace high on the river. When your range is polarized, you're obviously losing value when you don't bet all those medium strength hands and you're ahead of your opponent. If you have two pair, maybe your opponent will call with top pair. That's a missed bet. It'll hurt your long-term profit in poker in a very serious way. Another problem with having a polarized river betting range is it's easy to read. If your opponent catches on to the fact that your river bet in position is only the nuts or it's only a bluff, he's going to have a much easier time piecing together all your previous actions in the hand and figuring out if you truly have a monster or if you have nothing. The story will be much more consistent if you have the nuts. And if there's any consistency, he doesn't have to think about what medium strength hands you have. He just knows you have a bluff, and he'll either call or raise you. The last reason a polarized betting range is so bad is you're giving away free information. When you have these medium strength hands, say for instance top pair, and you don't value bet the river, even if you think your opponent is so weak that he won't call, when you check back, you get to showdown, meaning you have to show your top pair. And if your opponent has complete garbage, he's still winning in a sense because he sees how you played top pair or two pair or whatever the case may be. He's gotten an informational advantage against you that you could have withheld simply by value betting the river.